This training is designed for all operations employees for the purpose of providing a solid foundation of the food safety programs that are important and followed at Vigon International. In this training, we will talk about the differences between GMPs, good manufacturing practices, PCPs, preventative control programs, and CCPs, critical control points. We will then discuss the different programs you will be expected to follow as an operation employee to ensure that we adhere to the manufacturing of food-safe products. The overall goal of these programs are simple and easy to follow, yet, if not done correctly, can lead to negative outcomes like customer complaints, heavy fines, or a shutdown by a regulatory agency. This training complies with the new FSMA Food Safety Modernization Act requirements for training according to CGMP's 21 CFR 117 and Preventative Control's final ruling for human food. GMPs stand for Good Manufacturing Practices. These are guidelines that provide the minimum requirements that a food manufacturer must meet to assure that products do not pose any risk to consumer or public health. These guidelines include general cleanliness and mitigation of cross-contamination from the environment, employees, equipment, processes, and etc. These are mandatory guidelines by the FDA, and the reason why we wear hairnets and beard nets, wash our hands before working with products, clean dishes with a wash, rinse, sanitize protocol, have an allergen labeling program, and swab allergen and microsensitive areas. PCPs and CCPs, these acronyms stand for Preventive Control Points and Critical Control Points. These are programs that we have initiated at Vigon to adhere to our customer requirements, audit certification requirements, and to ensure that our food is both safe and high quality. Examples of preventive control programs are color coding, vendor approval, allergen program, environmental monitoring program, and CCPs are metal and foreign material control programs. Over the last 80 years, the discovery of food allergens has been an ever-increasing concern to the manufacturers who deal with the allergens and the consumers who are allergic to the allergens. The FDA has set specific guidelines that we need to follow at Vigon that will ensure that cross-contamination does not occur in our products so that the consumers do not end up getting sick from our products. The majority of all recalls and manufacturing shutdowns are due to improper handling or labeling of allergens. At Vigon, we recognize 18 allergens that are observed by the United States and EU, European Union. These allergens include milk, eggs, fish, crustaceans, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, soy, celery, mustard, sesame, sulfite, lupin, mollusks, garlic, MSG, corn, and gluten. One of the programs that we have to prevent allergen cross-contamination is our color code program, which separates different colors for different uses. This program has the following colors: white for product contact surfaces, red for allergen product contact surfaces, black for non-product contact surfaces, orange for broken glass contact, and blue and yellow for bathroom and cafe mops. Would you feel comfortable if you saw a waiter or waitress use the same rag to wipe down a toilet than wipe down your table at a restaurant? It would make me uneasy, as how do I know that the rag doesn't contain harmful pathogens that was now just wiped on my table? It is important to keep different utensils segregated based on bacteria or allergen risks. At home, it may be easy to recognize what brushes have been used for what, but during a shift where multiple people work and use the same tools, it can be difficult to know what tool was used for what, unless there is an easy color scheme for recognition. It is very important that we recognize when to use white product contact utensils and when to use red product contact utensils. White product contact utensils are only to be used for non-allergen product surfaces, while red utensils are only for allergen product contact surfaces. This is the most important part of the color program, as if a red allergen scoop is used to scoop a non-allergen into a work order, there is a high risk that the whole batch will be contaminated, and we may have a recall situation to deal with. Just remember that for some allergens it can take an almost invisible amount of residue to be enough to cause an allergic reaction for some individuals. Another program to help control cross-contamination for allergens is our labeling and segregation of allergen equipment. This helps to ensure that each processing equipment that does not have a color code has some visual label to alert a production specialist that the work order has an allergen. It is also a requirement by law to store allergens separately from non-allergens to prevent cross-contamination. Allergen notification on processing equipment is required when a work order contains an allergen. When a work order is being charged, 5 allergen stickers print, which will need to be placed on each piece of processing equipment that is being used. For example, if the job calls for a tank, portable tank, press, filter, and hose to be used, all 5 of these pieces of equipment need to be identified as having an allergen with the placement of the allergen sticker. Smaller equipment can be placed together on a pallet and the pallet labeled for identification. Allergen segregation is a requirement under the Food Allergen Labeling and Consumer Protection Act. Around the facility, you will see clean rooms or racks that will designate where allergens need to be stored. Do not store anything besides red product contact equipment on the allergen shelves. Once again, the purpose is to keep the allergen utensils and tools away from non-allergens to minimize any cross-contamination between them. The other major contributor to recalls and shutdowns of food facilities by the FDA is due to the microbiological outbreak in the plant. The 3 main components that lead to an outbreak of bacteria is food, water, and time. The food that bacteria can thrive on commonly is from microsensitive products or any food and drink that shouldn't be brought out onto the production floor. This is the reason why eating, drinking, and tobacco products are not allowed on the production floor. Bacteria also can't survive without water, which makes pooling water or consistently moist areas a concern if not cleaned properly. The most overlooked control of micro-cross-contamination is time. If we keep the environment clean on a consistent basis, the bacteria cannot grow and therefore cannot spread. The FDA mandates a risk assessment of potential concerns for microbiological growth based on the food and water components above. The biggest concern for the facility is the powder room, as most powders are microsensitive and great food for bacteria, while high humidity and washdowns keep moisture present in the powder room. The powder room is our biggest concern for microbiological growth, and we want first to control any growth, but also any transfer of bacteria from this area to another. This is why the powder room is our microsensitive area and requires special equipment, workwear, and swabbing so that we can keep control of the bacteria and that it doesn't transfer by human interaction. The primary control that we use to minimize cross-contamination from the powder room to other areas is our environmental control program and ATP swabbing. The environmental control program swabs floors and walls of the powder room to ensure that bacteria isn't growing and that our cleaning procedures are effective. If our cleaning procedures are effective, then we know that on a frequent basis we are stopping the bacteria from growing and spreading. Our ATP swabbing ensures that no bacteria are present when putting microsensitive material in the equipment, as bacteria would thrive on this food and contaminate the product and therefore our environment. The secondary controls we utilize at Vigon consist of keeping the powder room segregated and closed off to the rest of the manufacturing environment, keeping specific cleaning tools used only for this area, and workwear like smocks will help ensure that we do not transfer and cross-contaminate from the powder room to the other manufacturing environments. At this time, we do not have a forklift dedicated for the powder room, so it is important to make sure that the forklift is cleaned after being used in the powder room to minimize spread of micro and allergen cross-contamination. At the beginning of the work order, there is a pre-inspection sign-off to ensure that equipment has been properly cleaned and that the appropriate pieces of equipment are put together to ensure a successful charge. The pre-inspection of equipment is important for these main reasons. First, that there are no strong odors that could contaminate our new work order. Odor carryover from previous jobs are usually the first reason why you will get a work order rejected from QA or a complaint from the customer. Vigon is a fragrance and food flavor provider. Any impact to the overall smell of the product will get our finished products rejected. Secondly, there are no visual residues that could contaminate our work order. Under FSMA, any potential contamination or leftover residue from a previous work order is considered an adulteration of the product. This can be subject to recall if residue is found in a finished product or is shut down by the FDA if found during an audit. Lastly, inspection of loose or missing parts is important as parts may have become loose during cleaning, which may have been left in the tank by accident. There are instances where nuts and bolts fall into the product because they have become loose, or rags and towels have been accidentally left in the equipment. Please be diligent and spend the time to inspect equipment thoroughly to minimize any problems with foreign material being introduced into our products. Dishwashing in the manufacturing and DC environment is treated a little differently than how it may be treated at home. The FDA mandates a 3-step dishwashing process: the wash, the rinse, and the sanitize process. We have sinks in both the DC and repack room and manufacturing building that have 3 compartment sinks for these processes. Sink 1 is the wash compartment, where we wash with detergent and warm water to rid the dish, pot, tool, or utensil of any stuck-on debris or micro and allergen contamination. Sink 2 is the rinse compartment, where we wash off any contamination of the small equipment. Sink 3 is the sanitizer compartment, where equipment can be immersed in sanitizer for 60 seconds or foamed with sanitizer to dry. The purpose of the magnet is to remove any metal contaminants from in-process material before it gets into the finished product. The magnet produces a strong magnetic field that grabs all ferrous, non-ferrous, and stainless steel metals out of the product. Magnets are an important prerequisite program because they decrease any metal contamination found in raw materials that may have been introduced in our process. They do not, however, ensure that no metal is present in our finished products and therefore is not a critical control point. During your pre-inspection of equipment, you should clean off the magnet to ensure that no metal contaminants are present. During your post-inspection, take note of any metal contaminants that are present. If an unacceptable amount of metal is found for either of these inspections, contact QC or the food safety team leader. We will fill out a food safety exception form and investigate to understand the reason why there was metal fragments found on our in-process magnets. The purpose of the filter is to remove any foreign material that may be present in our liquid raw materials we receive and any in-process foreign material before it gets into our finished product containers. Foreign material we commonly see in filters are pieces of drum liners and fragments of metal or plastic from equipment. The filter creates a barrier so that only our liquid products can pass through, while all larger material or foreign material is left behind. The FDA defines a physical hazard program as significantly reducing foreign material from entering a finished product state at the size of 7 mm to 25 mm. Our filters reduce the potential for this hazard to an acceptable limit, which is why it is labeled as a CCP, or critical control point. It is very important to sign off on the filter CCP signature line, as without this signature the job was not done. Like the FDA says, if it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. During your pre-inspection of equipment, you should ensure that the filter fits correctly and you are using the right filter as mentioned on the work order. During the work order, if the rate of flow decreases significantly, check the filter. If foreign material is caked on the filter, there may be a problem that needs corrected. Contact QC or the food safety team leader. During the post-inspection of the filter, if the filter is damaged, frayed, or has holes, put the material on hold. We will fill out a food safety exception form to document and investigate the foreign material issues. The purpose of the metal detector is to signal if any foreign metal material is present in the raw materials we receive or in the process before getting into finished product containers. The metal detector is a CCP for powder jobs, as it is sensitive enough to detect 1 mm to 1.5 mm of ferrous, non-ferrous, and stainless steel metal, which is more sensitive than the 7 mm to 25 mm threshold as set by the FDA. The metal detector, when correctly working, reduces the potential for metal contamination to an acceptable limit, which is why it is labeled as a CCP, or critical control point. It is very important to sign off on the metal detector CCP signature line for powders, as without the signature, the FDA would treat the metal detector check as not being done. Once again, if it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. It is a requirement to check the metal detector at the beginning and end of every work order to ensure that the metal detector was working correctly throughout the whole work order. If any checks fail, contact QC or the food safety team leader. Be advised, the metal detector creates a magnetic field in the immediate work area. Any phones, walkie-talkies, vibrations, or foreign metal objects can distort the field and cause a false signal. It is important when checking the metal detector that you do not have these objects on your person. Once again, if any findings are found, we will fill out a food safety exception report. There are chemicals on the floor that we use for auxiliary purposes like dishwashing chemicals, cleaning chemicals, or maintenance chemicals. It is important to know which chemicals can be used in contact with food equipment, as the wrong chemical may contaminate the product with a hazard that may cause the consumer to be ill or have a product recall. The cleaning chemicals that we use for cleaning, like food-grade soaps and isopropyl alcohol, are approved for food as long as excessive residual is not left in the equipment. Our customers and audit scheme expects that we have some control over these chemicals, which is the reason why drums and chemicals are stored away from point of use or locked in a chemical cage. Other than cleaning chemicals, maintenance chemicals need to be controlled, as there are specific food safety regulations for food grade contact, general food grade, and non-food grade maintenance chemicals. The food grade chemicals are classified as H1 and H2, which designate where they can be used. H1 maintenance chemicals have the ability to be used near product contact surfaces as long as it doesn't contaminate the product to 10 parts per million level or above. Therefore, any excessive greasing, even with food-grade chemicals, can cause a chemical contamination. H2 chemicals are designed to be used in a food-safe environment, but cannot have the potential to come into contact with a food surface or product. Maintenance chemicals are stored under lock and key in the maintenance offices. If you see any maintenance chemical containers lying around, please contact maintenance or your food safety team leader. Thank you for your time and attention. Realize that every time you step out onto the floor, your actions positively or negatively affect the environment that we work in. You will be making choices every day that will affect the effectiveness of our food safety system. Following these process controls will result in a cleaner and safer work environment that will be an overall win for you and the company. If you ever have any questions regarding food safety process controls, you can always contact me, your food safety team leader, or your supervisors.